This is a photo of my dad and me at my 3rd birthday party. So how many daddy's girls do we have out here? So I was a daddy's girl, and I absolutely love this photo, and I keep it on my nightstand. Now this is a photo of me singing to my dad. My dad and I shared the love of music and dance, and I can recall him sharing the latest dance steps with me as we listened to James Brown. He loved James Brown. And according to my mom, at the age of 2, I could outdance most adults. My father was killed on August 3rd, 1978, as a result of an argument between some family members. My father was 27, and I was only 7. I think a critical component of increasing public safety is to support victims in their process of healing. On August 3rd, 1978, my life was changed forever. I think about my dad often and my college graduation, when I turned 27, when my mom walked me down the aisle at my wedding. I can see a picture or hear a song, maybe some Jimi Hendrix. My dad loved Jimi Hendrix. And I think of him. Now, my father's death was not the first time that violence entered into our lives. My mom often tells stories of growing up in South Memphis, Soulsville, Tennessee, and violence was a way of life. My mom has 2 scars on her right arm, one where a bullet went in and one where the bullet came out. And she was 3 years old when that happened. My dad grew up being bullied and knew domestic violence firsthand. So as a young couple, my mom's 16 and my dad a few years older, the violence started pretty quickly. And my mom has always been honest and open about that abuse and violence. She recalls many nights running to the neighbor's door and banging on their door, pleading for help. Now, my mom did eventually leave. In fact, we left a few months before my father was killed. Here's a photo of my mom and me. My mom stands 4'10", strong and determined, and a survivor. I think about the first time I shared my story. I remember getting this invitation to this church as a part of a group of individuals that had lost family members to violence. And I can recall sitting in this circle, and when it was my turn, I started to speak, and then I started to cry, and then I started to cry. And I was really embarrassed because I was crying in front of this group of complete strangers. But what happened next was a number of individuals walked up to me and thanked me for sharing my story. So I share my story for a number of reasons. One, because I think when most people look at me, they don't imagine that I have this intimate relationship with violence. I hope that my story may resonate with someone and that they may gain a sense of hope and may know that there's a potential for a better place, a healthier life. I do feel blessed, and I do feel like I'm in a healthier place, but it's been a very long and hard journey. I think about my cousin Elle. We grew up together. In fact, for a few years, we lived next door to each other. Our fathers were brothers, our mothers were friends, and we were only a few months apart in age. And both of our fathers battled alcoholism, and both were abusive. And as we got older, I saw Elle start to struggle. And at the age of 15, he took a young man's life. I once read that offenders were victims at some point, and that hurt people sometimes hurt themselves, and hurt people sometimes hurt others. I really want us to think about making a shift in our consciousness, to really imagine having a community that supports victims and survivors. To imagine that we really make the investment in resources, time, and effort in helping someone to transition from victim to survivor. to imagine if we had an army of victim advocates and community members and faith leaders linking arms with victims and survivors and saying, I got your back. I'm gonna help you through this process. That every time we have a conversation about crime and criminal justice reform, that we always have a survivor and a victim advocate at the table. Now I recall that first time of me sharing my story and realizing that I had never said goodbye to my father. So I went to see a counselor, and after a few sessions, we had a closing ceremony. So I brought that picture of my father and me at that birthday party. We dimmed the lights, put on a little music, maybe some James Brown, lit 3 candles. I read a letter to my father, and then I read a passage. There was an elderly woman with 2 large pots. One pot had a crack in it, the other pot was perfect. And she would carry these 2 pots on a pole across her neck. And every day she would make the journey from our house to the stream. Now that perfect pot carried the full pot of water, but that other pot, a half-full pot of water. And so every day this went on. So that perfect pot felt great about its accomplishments, but that pot with that crack felt terrible. So after 2 years, the crack pot says to the woman, I'm ashamed of my imperfection. I have this crack in my side, and I continue to leak water from the stream to the house. So she smiles at the pot and says, I've always known about your flaw. Have you not seen that you have beautiful flowers on your side of the path, and there are no flowers on this other side of the path? That's because 2 years ago, I planted flower seeds. So every time we make that walk from the stream to the home, you water those flowers. And every day, I'm able to pick these beautiful flowers and place them on my table. And without you being just the way you are, I would not have this beauty to grace my house. Thank you.